become integrated with regional objectives. We would love to be, in part, a delivery body for some of the region's larger economic development initiatives. When I left the UK, we would have called the company that I managed a delivery body, but it was very clear what we were trying to deliver. Here it's not so clear. You can't be a delivery body if you don't know exactly what you're delivering. So part of this is to engage you in what some of those larger initiatives should be. What is public policy, and if there is something to deliver, do you want us doing some of that? The last bullet I mentioned earlier, scale. All the experts that I talk to, all the folks that seem to have been successful in other regions, other parts of the country, or you know what you're trying to accomplish and you do it at some scale. And what a few industrial folks have told me, experts in the industrial markets and property, and they're the ones doing the deals every day, say Cleveland's pretty good at doing small projects, brownfield cleanup here, brownfield cleanup there, an infrastructure project here, but it's not of the scale that investors could really get their hands around. So we're talking larger, longer-term sorts of initiatives, and how comfortable are we that we're creating something that actually is creating market value. It requires collaboration. Man, I've learned that in my 6 or 7 months here. There's a lot of people to collaborate with. I can spend most of my time collaborating. I don't have to do anything. But the point is that we're supposed to be delivering something or working on things that are really of value to the region. And there are a lot of players. There's a lot of folks that you need to coordinate with. But that's what it is. And if you're thinking constantly about the next project and the next couple of initiatives over the next year or two, I don't know, you're just not thinking about the long term. You're not giving context to investment. I don't think you have a chance to speak to investors in that longer term context very well. They don't know what they're investing in. They don't know what the next set of initiatives are. For us, it's all about not maritime and not development finance, but it's about economic development of the region. And for that, there are a lot of different players playing. Many of your cities have active interest in programs, and I think my team has worked with some of your cities on a variety of initiatives, and we would like to continue that. The City of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, the GCP, the Chamber, and many other organizations are playing in this space. And what we'd like to do is just stand to the side and let brighter people think about what we're delivering, and we'd like to help deliver. And where it's not so clear, we'd like to sit around a table and collaborate on what those initiatives are. If it's not about key segments, if we don't know where we're going, it's going to be hard to implement anything. So I've said that a few times. We see ourselves as a component. That's that bit about collaboration. We're going to make a major investment in the environment, and we'd like to be probably the leading port on the Great Lakes and one of the leading ports in the country in terms of everything from our maritime interests to our waterfront interests to projects that we would invest in and be part of on the land side. And I think that's a pretty significant change for ports and for us. The world's changing, and I think we want to get in front of that, from alternative power generation on the port property itself, to how we manage our materials, to how we manage runoff, to a whole variety of initiatives we'd like to be working on. I was mentioning at the table this issue of invasive species that you may have heard about, where ships from other parts of the world that come down the Great Lakes that are bringing ballast water in their tanks to keep them stable, when they get to their destination, they let the water out. And that lets out water from Europe or someplace, or in Asia. And there's different organisms in their water than in our water, and it's not natural, and bad things happen. This has been around for decades, ships coming into the Great Lakes. But we've taken a stand with a couple of other ports and a few companies in investing in a research institute in Minnesota, actually, about new technologies to treat this issue of invasive species. So we'd like to start curtailing that issue, and we'd like to be confident that as ships do come into our waters, they're clean, they're burning clean fuel, they're bringing great cargo and jobs to us, but they're doing it in a way that sort of matches our objective to have a, what do we call it, a green city by blue water or something like that? Yeah, thank you. But no, we're serious about that, and if we're not, we'll be penalized later. And my 3 years in the UK sort of drilled this into my head, that the environment's not just something you do because you need to, it's something you do because you're supposed to do it, it's the right thing, and you make it work. And I think there's a large set of truths to that. Community water-related uses are compatible. In the past, we might have seen ourselves, because we had to do this, as a place where raw material is put on or near the waterfront. But those issues of access to the water and recreation and so forth might have been viewed as sort of the problem. We need to do our thing, and you might be in our way. Our mantra is this, that we'd like to have a port of the future, and we'd like to help the community invest in recreation. I've talked about the environment. We'd like to talk about access to the water. I'd love to build a museum and a series of restaurants on some of our property when the time comes, which may not be that far in the future, that say to Clevelanders and folks in Ohio, come to Cleveland and explore the interesting maritime and interesting industrial heritage that's been along the waterfront. I went to, I saw one of your members at the Burning River Festival at Wendy Park downtown. And what struck me was, as a couple of ships were pulling into one of our facilities, there were dozens of people lined up on the hill taking pictures with their little cell phones. I think people want to see what's going on, and I hope it's not. I'm sure it's not. We're going to work hard that it's not an industry versus community issue, because I think this community is actually quite welcoming of industry, and if we're slightly more sensitive to it and how we invest, we would love to help build the most notable marina recreation complex on the Great Lakes and do it in scale. And if we think big, maybe we can accomplish some of that. So that's what that's about. Into the future, our strategic plan says this, and let me just remind that if any of you are interested, I'll get you a copy of the strategic plan. It's in draft form right now. We had a public meeting on our strategic plan several weeks ago at Cuyahoga Community College downtown. It's been on our website and publicized, but we'd really like some comment on it. And the strategic plan doesn't talk about projects, but it does talk about our role. And it says this: we run the port today, maritime port, and we do development finance. What the proposition is that we would be in 3 business lines. In maritime, we'd like the port to become busier. We would like the port to be a window to economic trade around the world. The mayor at in his meeting yesterday, where he was talking about aviation, and Hopkins and Burke, I didn't get to the meeting, but I was told he referred to Cleveland. He wants to see Cleveland as a gateway, and a global gateway, and that's some of the conversation we've been having, which is, at least on the maritime side, we think the potential is significant, that Cleveland could be a maritime city with a bustling port and jobs that are related to trade. And it doesn't do that now. Our port is unique and it's singular in its function. Product comes in for steel making and some other industries, which is really important. But if you're not involved in that set of industries, you're not going to touch the port. If you go downtown, you might not even know the port's there. Or if you do, you just see some piles of things and you don't know what happens there. But if the port takes on a more significant function, we'll have all sorts of product coming in and out of Cleveland that doesn't come in today. And the experts tell us a couple things. One is, if it's a port that handles more diverse cargo, we will sustain investment that we can't even compete for today. One of them said to me, if we had a maritime port of a certain type, which is what we would be talking about, the pin is on the map, they said. The pin is on the map when we're sort of narrowing the list of cities where the company's narrowing its list of potential locations or a consolidation point. And for that, we just need to be sharp. Our pencils need to be sharp, and we need to know what sorts of industries and how we would make that argument.